welcome into this Whodat Breakdown episode of the Jenks Island Podcast. In today's episode, Sterb and I are going to be breaking down, the Saints. 2 weeks ago, we are thinking that Spencer Rattler could be the guy for this team that, we might not be looking at quarterbacks in the future and in this upcoming draft. Then in the Tampa Bay game, Spencer Rattler has two major terrible plays that we'll talk about and how they kind of affected him. And it made him get benched. And Tyler Shough officially came in for the Saints. And we're going to be breaking down whether or not this new era will officially be the Tyler Shough era, if they're going to go with him for the rest of the season, or maybe if Spencer Rattler can be put back in for this team. So Sterb, real quick, this game, like you said, while we were talking about this one, it was rough for Spencer Rattler. What are your thoughts on kind of how he performed in the to begin the game and why he got benched?
I kind of mentioned this in the breakdown that we did in the preview for week 8. Rattler was kind of treating that short pass game like an extension of the run game, kind of like I predicted, and like Kellen Moore has shown us that he wants to do in this offense. And it started out really not that bad. Like Rattler was escaping from the pocket pretty decently up until that fumble, and he's just, ever since that, it feels like it got in his head. He started playing a little less confidently. And really what rattled him is all the interior stunts that Todd Bowles was throwing at him. And I think mainly that is one of the traits that they don't like in Rattler that they like in Shough. It's a 5-inch height difference. And we see it in this game. Like when Kellen Moore's wanting to work over the middle, Rattler, even though he's mentally good at it, there's things that he can't physically see. And there was a lot of interior pressure this game. The tackles actually held up really, really well. I was very impressed with them. But Rattler, just pressure coming up the middle, he's liable to make mistakes. And then he got out on that one, and it was, Anthony Nelson. He's 6'7" with a massive wingspan versus Rattler that's, 6 foot. So like I talked about, it's that height difference. And then, it wasn't pretty. And then, Shough came in. I don't know. It's kind of like an ungradable performance. He had the one pick that was like sort on him, sort on Olave. But they were kind of asked to do like the same things. It looked a little different stylistically, but I think Rattler just has more access to high leverage throws than Shough. But that could be small sample size thing that we're seeing. So this game just not good overall from the Saints.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler, and this is kind of what we talked about with Spencer as well, as he had to avoid the implosion games, right? And for the start of the season until week 7, he didn't really ever have one. The Seahawks game, you could kind of say it was an implosion game because he did have a lot of turnover worthy throws, but they were down 21-zip by the time he could blink an eye, and it wasn't really his fault to get down to that point. So he had to kind of start forcing the ball, put himself into iffy situations that he might not put himself into if the game's closer to start the game. And then obviously going into last week, he has 4 turnovers with a fumble in the first drive and then 3 picks, 2 of which were just really bad throws. And then this game, right? You kind of have to see him bounce back against a solid opponent in the Bucs. He has the fumble to start off the game again and on another first drive. And it's just that was rough for him. And then he bounces back. I would say on that first drive too, he was kind of leading the team down, right? He was making good throws, making smart decisions. And then that fumble is just a crucial mistake. Then the pick later in the game, obviously that pick 6, like you said, Anthony Nelson, much taller than Rattler. Rattler sees him hand up in front of him a good 5 yards away and still throws the ball at I don't know if he can really control it. The way that he threw the ball was just a straight dart. And it just obviously it wasn't even close to it, but he didn't really have to jump to bat it down. It was just kind of right into his arm. And like you said, Shough having that height difference, maybe in that situation, he would have been able to more easily throw it over Anthony and Nelson in that moment. So again, Spencer Rattler put into a tough position, and I don't think this offense necessarily was failing because of him. There's these moments on the offense, right, where multiple players are dropping balls. Rashid Shaheed has a fumble on a slant where you're in man coverage. You catch a slant, a guy's coming from behind you. He's carrying the ball one arm with that outside arm. In a game moment situation, the corner is coming to punch at the ball or tackle you. And that's just, you can't let that happen. You got to cover it with both arms or switch the other arm and brace for impact one way or another. And it just didn't happen. And that was a big swing as well. So obviously we see Shough come in, but I want to ask you, Sturb, do you think that Spencer Rattler is done for the year as the Saints starter, or do you think they go back to him even after benching him mid-game?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about this, where if it's like Rattler, if he's continuing to play well, I don't think they have to play Shough. Let's say he didn't have this blow up game. It was kind of what we saw from the first,
Mhm.
6 weeks from Rattler for the rest of the season. I didn't think you had to play Shough at all, even if you would have felt outside pressure. But this is like kind of not an excuse, but it is a reason to be like, hey, Spencer, we're benching you for this reason. We can't have turnovers. That's not how this offense operates. Because with a lot of the quick game and you're not getting a lot of shot plays,
Yeah.
he wasn't getting you a lot of shot plays either. You kind of can't really live with that on a down and down basis because you're just killing clock. And then we saw that it felt like the Tampa Bay defense had like 8 defensive touchdowns in this one.
Yeah.
So Shough, I don't have like a whole lot of faith in. He feels a little antsy at times. He shows flashes at like evading pressure, but he also shows flashes where he kind of makes some very very questionable
Panics.
decisions under
Yep.
pressure. And his deep ball accuracy not very good. He missed a whole shot to Shaheed down the right sideline, and that was with a few minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. So you're kind of taking shots, but I mean, the deep ball accuracy is not great. Working over the middle, he's fine, but his escapability, it has upside, but it's not something you can rely on. And when you're comparing it to Rattler, even I would feel more comfortable with Rattler getting outside the pocket and under pressure than I would Shough. So I don't really trust Shough to eliminate the same mistakes that Rattler has been making these past couple weeks. So I don't think Rattler's done. I still do. I'm still confident that Rattler's the better quarterback, just based on what we've seen. So I don't think he's done for the season. And if you're gonna bench Rattler at some point, I think this is what you kind of not wanted it to look like. But I think this is the process it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would definitely agree there. And it's kind of like, you bench him mid game. You gave him a little bit of a leash, right? He wasn't winning games. He only
Yeah,
won
in the
one
last
game
game
this
too, right?
season. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you give him after, the implosion against the Bears. You're saying, hey, you can go bounce back. He didn't, another 2 turnovers. And that's kind of where you just draw the line of, hey, and Kellen Moore said it, the offense needs a spark. And so Rattler, to me, once you take him out for the 40th overall pick, to me, it's kind of, you can't go back. I mean, I think that's just kind of like the process the NFL works, and that might be very unfair to Rattler, right? Like I think Rattler isn't really given this great offense to go and succeed with, um, and he's kind of just, he has made really good plays for this team, and he's also had plays that the offense has screwed him, right? Like that Rashid Shaheed fumble, like that's not his fault that there's a turnover on the field. He's trying to put the ball into good places, and Rashid Shaheed fumbles like that costs him. And I just think once you get off of Rattler, you have to go let Shough go out and see what he can do. You give him a few stretches of games, and then maybe if he sucks completely and there's just no hope at all on the offense, then you you put it back in Rattler. But that's just tough because if you're thinking about it right as a business, as well as these are professionals, things like that, like that's tough for Rattler to be like, you benched me because you think this guy's better. He sucked, and now you want me to go and save the season, whatever. It's a tough
The thing
position
is,
for a
like,
team.
with if you're looking at it, if you're Rattler, it wasn't just and this was our kind of like gripe with how we saw the process.
Mhm.
Um like if you're Rattler, there are tangible things that you did that can point to your benching, even if it isn't all you, even
Yep.
if you're not given the perfect situation to succeed. I feel like the offense isn't really built to his strength sometimes, but he showed some flashes, but there were definitely downsides where he can be like, okay, I need to get better at this. I need to get better at this. It's not just okay. They think Shough is better. It's the team setting a standard on not turning over the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's those long drives, like you said, like you're killing all this clock, and if it ends in a turnover and not points, and even the red zone drives we've seen time and time again this season, or field goal attempts going missing, and things like that. If you drive down the whole field on a 10 play drive, it has to end in points. And that hasn't been a thing for this team. They've only broken 20 points offensively in one game. So it's very, very tough for a coach to look at those results and say, "Hey, Spence, we're going to keep playing you." Like it's just very, very tough for a coach to do that, especially an offensive minded one, because it's his job, right, to elevate this offense and to make success be visible, at least like there's a path to success for this team. And it just wasn't happening over the last few weeks. And that brings me to my next question. With this current roster, right, the offensive side of the ball, you do have a couple solid players, but it's not necessarily there's not a star on the offense at this point in time. So I got to ask you, do you think that Shough, if he is the start of the rest of the year, do you think he can succeed? Do you think he can show flashes with this current offense?
I think the offense is more built tailored to his skill set, which obviously makes sense. Like Kellen Moore picking his
Yep.
quarterback as he comes in, just because of that. That it really comes down to that interior pressure versus the height. We see like the same thing with like Kyler Murray. We see the same thing with Caleb Williams. Spencer Rattler is kind of in that mold where his operation of the quick game over the middle. Even though I think he has an underrated feel for it compared to, consensus opinion about him, he's just physically limited. And there's things that he can't access, there's things that he can't see. Um, Whereas Shough, he has a pretty live arm. His footwork looked pretty good in this game. Um, there's not like a whole lot to build around in terms of like weapons. Obviously, you have AK. He's going to be good until the day he retires, right? He's going to be positive for the locker room the day he retires. I'll say that. And then the weapons, like I love Shaheed. He's my favorite Saint. I think it's honestly a pretty good chance that he gets dealt to a team where he can be, a more opened up wide receiver too.
Yep.
And then Olave, like Olave's so up and down. I know most of Saints fans, I feel like that I interact with and see don't like Olave at all. I feel like I like Olave a little more than Saints fans, just because you see wide receivers switch situations all the time, and it's
Yep.
you see them flourish, and it's like, oh man, we had that guy, But the grass isn't always greener if you get rid of Olave. So I would probably keep Olave for now. We have him until 2027, I believe, and then the interior, like obviously we dealing with the backup center this game, so that's not great. But the tackles, I was very, very impressed, and I've been impressed with them all year. But this game was really, really good from the tackles. They're like Rattler, um, sometimes on the exterior pressure, and Shough as well. Like the pocket was getting condensed back to them, but Shough is a little better at stepping up in the pocket and ripping throws over the middle, like we mentioned. So like those tackles, like they've kind of played lights out,
Yeah.
especially this past week. So I think those are two building blocks, and you took them, first round of each of the past drafts. So you expect that, but I think it's a decent situation for Shough to, kind of deal the offense as Kellen Moore envisions it.
Yeah, no, I would succeed. I would agree with that, and I think he can succeed because of those pieces around him. And it's not necessarily. I don't think he's gonna flourish in the offense. You know what I mean? I don't think he's gonna be like a guy like immediately he comes in and Spencer Rattler's numbers just look like nothing in comparison to him. Like he comes and
Yeah.
balls out, lights it up. I don't see that happening. I think he'll be able to run the offense like Rattler was, and at this point in time, like that's if he's equal to or slightly better than Rattler, that's succeeding as far as terms as he was Rattler was benched for him. He can't be worse than Rattler. That's not success. If he comes in is equal to or better than Rattler, I think that's a positive for now, especially considering at least to start off, he hasn't had practice reps with the ones since the preseason. He came out and said that after the game this year. So that's tough to start out with. And like you said, I think the guys around him provide him with an opportunity to succeed. I think he's been a solid receiver. Do I think that he's a bona fide like receiver one top 15 guy in the NFL? No. But I think he could be like a Devontae Smith type of guy on the Eagles, where if you get a AJ Brown type across from him, you can have a guy that maybe if AJ Brown's out, you can rely on Chris Olave for receiver one duties for a few games. outside of that, like he's a guy that will be open majority of the game and you can find on the second read or things like that. But you need someone that is a little bit more physical in my eyes. And that's something that happened on Tyler Shuck's throw to Olave that was intercepted. Um, Chris Olave saw the defender coming at him, and Tyler Shuck definitely could have thrown it out of the way of contact. But Chris Olave sees the contact and kind of frays away from the ball, tries to like grab it and double clutches it, bounces into Antoine Winfield Jr.'s arms, and he kind of they fight for it, whatever. That shouldn't have happened. Chris Olave should have caught it right away, and that's sort of what I mean is I need someone more physical in the middle that can, take those hits, not be worried about it. Um, I do think Rashid Shaheed gets dealt as well, and we'll kind of talk about that in a second in the next segment. But I think he is a guy that, if he isn't dealt, can be a speedster for Shuck to throw to, and we saw that, like you said, on that one hitch, stutter and go on the at towards the end of the game that he missed. But I think with more practice reps and time, that can be more dialed in as a connection. And then everywhere else, tackles are good. The interior O line's pretty rough right now, but I think they'll be able to improve that in the draft. And then the tight ends, I don't think the tight ends are great. So that kind of, that's iffy for Shuck. We saw Juwan Johnson with another bad drop on a really good throw from Tyler Shuck in that game on a corner route, put it in right into his hands, and he
That
drops it
one was
again.
hard to watch.
It's so funny with Juwan Johnson at this point because he'll make like there will be some times where he'll make like a tough catch. And you're like, okay, maybe he's bouncing back, and then he'll just drop the easiest pass in the world the next play, and you're like, okay, I was wrong. And we paid him $10 million for three straight years with an extension, so that's great to see. You love to pay mediocre tight ends higher end money for a tight end position, so it's just tough.
Absolutely.
It's just tough. But with that, I'll move on to the next question. Are there any pieces on this team that you truly like? If you were today, if you're sitting there today, all players are free agents and you need to extend some of these guys, who would you extend for this team to build off of in the future?
Oh man, that's a tough question. Honestly, like any player who I see leaving in the near future, like as much as I love Shaheed, I don't know if I'm him if I would sign back.
That's true.
And he's already 27 and he's on an
Yeah.
expiring deal. I think his deal is over this year. Um, and then like it sucks because you love these guys, but Demario can probably help out a defense competing. Like Pete Werner could probably go. There's a lot of pieces that like as much as it would like hurt to see them go, they're not contributing to anything at this
Yeah.
point. And if their upside is that limited to where they're not going to be on like a contending team for this, version of Kellen Moore, then they're probably expendable.
Yep.
Not expendable, but tradable.
Yeah, no, for me, I think there's only like really a few guys that I would say the 2025 rookie class. I think you would bring them back, just to see what else they have. Because Quincy Riley, Danny Stutzman, Kelvin
I
Banks
thought you meant
Jr.
today,
Oh,
like
I mean, yeah,
going
I
into this
mean,
season.
sorry, I should say, yeah, I should rephrase it. Like, I just think like any guys that you think you should keep right now, if they had the option to leave, like you would keep just because you want to see build off of them in the future.
Yeah, I mean the past two draft classes I'm keeping easily, just because we haven't seen what they are yet. So
Yeah.
the longer you go, the more you know. So yeah, I'm keeping all the young guys as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely keeping all of them because they've shown flashes too. Like this 2025 class has shown some promise. A couple of guys from the 2024, the 2023 class. The only guy I'm keeping is Brian Brissine. We've already seen most of the other guys kind of just fall out of relevancy to this team completely. I mean, Isaiah Foskey's already gone, and that guy probably shouldn't be playing for any other team. I think he got called up for the Bengals last week because of injury, but yeah, that guy, it's just a crazy. He's the number 40th overall pick too, and we've seen what happened with him. The other guys I think I would currently say are building pieces. Chase Young, I would say Chase Young and Chris Olave are the two other guys outside of the two draft classes that I think that you should keep and try to build around in the future. I think Chase Young, if you get a bona fide pass rusher across from him, then you have a scary threat because we see Chase Young getting pressure from one side and you just see him the quarterback's going, oh, okay, I'm pressured over here. I have Carl Granderson or Cam
Yeah,
Jordan standing still on the edge, not providing any pressure. I'm just going to roll out and be fine. Don't get me wrong. Carl Granderson's not like a bad player by any means. He's more like he's an average pressure. He's an
he's fine.
average pressure, like edge kind of guy. He can do it in the run game, but I'm not building up. I'm not like, this is the guy I need to build off of him on my team. Chase Young has provided some moments that gives me optimism, but I just don't see it from anyone else on that defense outside of those younger guys. Jonas Sanker too. I just would shout him out because he's been really like solid for a third round safety. And I think that was kind of higher than people expected him to be drafted, but he's played to the level of where he was drafted. And I think that's good for him. And so we touched on this, Sturb. Who else should be traded? We said Shaheed. Who else on this team should be traded? And what would you trade them for?
Should or shouldn't?
Who should be traded? Sorry.
Yeah, like I said, probably Demario Davis and Pete Werner. You know, we have some young linebackers who have like shown some flashes at times, but not enough to be confident in them. But I mean, if we're treating this like Madden, and that's probably what's best for the team. I know it doesn't work that way in real life. You have to sell tickets. You have to be, you know, somewhat competent. But if we're doing what's best for the team, you're moving those guys for, you know, 4th, 5th round picks. So
Yeah. Yeah. Demario, like as much as I love the guy, and I think he is essential for this defense. Like we saw it on the
yeah,
end zone stops this game. Like he's blowing guys up. He's gonna have only
yep.
1 to 2 more years left. And at this point, like if you can get draft comp for him where you're getting something to build towards the future, like that's more beneficial. And I'll say this too. Obviously, Alvin Kamara said he would retire if he's traded. And I texted you and Ty this separately that I love Alvin Kamara and I love how loyal he is to his team. And I think he deserves a place in the Ring of Honor. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer. I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Um, and he is a Saints legend. But at this point, like his loyalty is almost hurting the team because his role in this team isn't being used correctly under Kellen Moore. He wants more of, an inside running back guy. And that's kind of what we're using Alvin as right now. We're not throwing screen passes to him. We're not using him as the guy that he's excelled as for so long in this league that I think I know he doesn't really care about winning a ring, things like that. But at some point, like it's hurting you just ending on this team, right? Like it's
All
just,
Saints fans would be fine with it.
yeah, like all Saints fans are like, we want to see him go succeed because right now they're just not using him right. And he's not able to succeed in this offense. And it's just like, yeah, Alvin, he ran 3 times for 12 yards in the first quarter, didn't touch the ball again for like 27 attempts or 27 snaps in this game on a run play. And that's just like, Alvin, I know you want to be a part of this team. You want to be a part of the rebuild, but at the same time, like it would help us more as a rebuilding team if we could get like a 3rd or 4th somehow for him, which even that is
And
pretty
he could
high.
do the Jimmy Graham and come back and retire a Saint.
Yeah, exactly. And a year or 2 down the road, if when you finish out your contract with that ring team, that contender, then come back, play a few snaps, dial down and retire. Like that would be beneficial to us and beneficial to him
Get in at
too.
the 1, score a few touchdowns.
It's just like I love Alvin and I never want to see him traded. Like I've been saying that for years. I'm like, I don't want to see Alvin get traded. He's essential to this team. But right now, he literally is not essential because we can't even get him into opportunities to succeed. Like we see him have a couple checkdowns where he's able to get like 10 yards and then they won't look his way again, or they won't call a screen pass, or they won't run an outside run. All of the things that he excels at so much as a runner and as a receiver.
The team is
And
treating him like he's not the offense anymore, and
yeah,
that's pretty evident.
yeah,
And he could be the offense somewhere else. And don't get us wrong, like we're going to be pretty heartbroken if Alvin gets dealt,
yeah.
but at this point, like it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, and then like also like if you somehow could get like a 7th or a 6th from the Broncos for Taysom Hill, like I think you kind of have to take it. Like I understand that like Taysom Hill is a guy that like 4th and 1, 4th and 2, like you're getting a first down with, but Kellen Moore doesn't really seem to be wanting to use him, which I think is fair. Like you want to use the younger guys, you want to see what younger guys have. And at this point, like Taysom Hill's not going to be here for the rebuild either. Like if you can get a 7th, just a chump change for him, I would take it, even though that would suck too. Just as a Saints fan, like you don't want to see these
Yeah.
guys get traded, but it's just I want to see the commitment to the youth. You know what I mean? Like I want to see Devon Vela got traded for, and they haven't used him. Like it just if you're going to trade for someone, use them. If you're going to not use guys, trade them away, things like that. Moving
Exactly.
on to our next conversation, Sturb, what are your thoughts on Kellen Moore so far, both as a head coach, like as a leader of this team, and then also as an offensive mind? How do you think this offense is doing so far?
Yeah, so I'll start with the offensive mind. I do like the changes that he's brought into the offense, like the heavy use of motion. It feels like it's very well put together and well designed. It seems like there's obvious times where it doesn't work, and you can kind of point that out to the players. I'm
Yeah,
not the biggest mind in terms of X's and O's, but I can tell when a guy is messing up. So I do like what he's done from a scheme front, just because it is kind of making sense with at least the weapons he has, not necessarily the quarterback. Like I've mentioned earlier, like it didn't seem like it was an offense really tailored to Spencer Rattler, which makes sense given that you drafted Shough at 40. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think he's done a pretty all right job considering the decisions that he's made. Like if he told me straight up, like no matter what, I'm going to design the offense to, this is the end goal. This is I want Shuck to step in and be the quarterback, and I want it to be this to tailor his skill set.
yep,
And Alvin is not really the future of this team, so I'm going to dial it back a little bit. Even if I don't necessarily agree with all those points, given that that's what he told me in this hypothetical scenario, I do think it's been designed pretty well. And we mentioned this over the summer. I don't know. Kellen Moore just doesn't seem like that great of a leader, that great of a personality to
yep.
me. And that could be completely behind the doors, and I have no idea what's going on. But he's not the type where, I felt very confident that like there are these coaches that you see in press conferences, in locker rooms, whatever the scenario may be. They just exude confidence in their team. They exude personality. People like Aaron Glenn, people like Dan Campbell, like kind of that whole Lions
And
coaching
of
tree.
course, and
Uh,
I'll say this: Aaron Glenn, obviously, like right now, hasn't had the most success on the field, but I see where you're
yeah,
coming from, like as far as personality. Yeah,
yes, I'm talking about like where I was at in the summer. Like
yeah, yeah,
I wanted Aaron Glenn for this team really, really badly. And even guys like, on the higher end of things, let's say, you got like Sean McVay. Sean McVay exudes personality. He exudes um, all this confidence in his team.
yep.
And you just don't really get that. It's kind of like it's just a little stale with Kellen Moore. And that could be me being picky and not being in the locker room, but based off what I've seen, that's just how I feel.
Yeah, no, for me, as far as the offensive scheme goes, I do love the infusion of just motion on almost every single play, pre-snap motion, identify the defense, identify the coverage, help out the quarterbacks just that much more. And I think it also the thing that hurts me just watching it is because they are doing all this pre-snap motion. You would think in the preseason they've nailed down, how to line up, things like that to limit these pre-snap penalties, and we saw that come back up this game as well. It's just there's illegal motions happening in week 8, right? Like things like that. Like that's Kellen Moore's job as a head coach, especially as an offensive minded guy. If you're going to scheme up an offense to this level and this scheme, you should have had these all of these fine details tuned down. And then also, I just want to say in this offseason, right? All the Saints beat reporters are saying this is the easiest offseason they've seen in a long time. Like there were a lot of off days, practices were the shortest they've ever been, things like that. And now I feel like you're kind of seeing that come to fruition. You're seeing guys, being a little bit lackadaisical in execution. You're seeing guys care less about the fine tuned things. And I think that's just that much information just kind of puts me off of Kellen Moore a little bit. I think he can still improve, and I don't think the talent on the team is really there for him to succeed necessarily as an offensive minded head coach. Like he's scheming up plays. We saw that play for where Taysom Hill caught the ball, hook and lateral to Alvin Kamara across the field. They didn't execute the play. The play was called and it was perfect for the moment. It would have worked like a glove if they executed it properly. So I think the execution just needs to improve. I want to see him be able to do that. And like you said, as far as a head coach personality goes, I don't think he's ever had what I'm looking for in a head coach. Dan Campbell has truly been like the poster boy of what you want as your head coach. A guy that's not necessarily an offensive or defensive minded guy directly. Like you don't identify him as either of those. As he's a guy that's going to talk to the defense, he's going to talk to the offense, be passionate to both of them, and say how they need to do their jobs, they need to be better. If they're doing poorly, if they're not executing, he's going to chew them out and tell them you need to do your job. And then I think with Kellen Moore, we see Blake Grupe miss multiple field goals this year, and every single week it's just kind of like, yeah, he's gonna bounce back. He's gonna bounce back. That's Blake Grupe. That's our kicker. That's our captain. You just kind of like lackadaisical smile, like not doesn't seem upset. And then in moments in the game where mistakes are happening, you just kind of see him on the sideline. He's just kind of like he just like straight, not straight face, but
He's
just kind of
he's just
sulking.
he's just flaccid.
Yeah, just flaccid on
Like
the
that's
side, and it's
that's
just
that's the best adjective I can come up with to describe him.
yeah, it doesn't seem to really have much fire. I think we saw it. I'm trying to think of when it was a few games ago. There was like a challenge or a bad call that he kind of got pissed off about, and I like seeing that. But that's towards the refs more than it is the team. When the team's playing poorly, I do want to see the coach kind of respond as, "Hey, we need to be better." And then, like you said, it might be happening behind the doors, behind closed doors, things like that. Just so the media doesn't see it and the team doesn't lose respect for him. Like, hey, this guy's chewing us out for no reason. Like things like that. Maybe he's trying to prevent that from happening. But at the same time, I do want to see more fire from him this season, and I'm hoping he kind of keeps building that throughout the season. Another thing I just want to mention is he's had a few moments this season, really bad time and clock management both to end a half or timeouts when they're not needed, things like that. That it's really frustrating to see, and it's like Madden coaches could execute the second a 2-minute drill before the half like better as far as timeouts goes and things like that. So I want to see him improve in that as well. I hope we have more moments to see how he plays them out, but I just think he can definitely improve in both personality, 2-minute drills, time management, and just utilizing the guys better. I mean, we said like before, right? He's not using Devon Vele. I want to see him kind of get him more involved. All of those sorts of things. Next off, Sturb, final question and final segment of the day before we get out of here. What are your thoughts on this team's future? How long do you think this rebuild lasts? And do you think if Tyler Shough doesn't do well, I'll just add this question. I know I didn't tell you this earlier. Do you think if Tyler Shough plays poorly, do you think the Saints go with quarterback as the first pick in their draft this upcoming season? And then also kind of what is the future of this team? How long does this rebuild go? All of that.
Yeah, I do think that if Tyler Shough plays poorly, you do kind of have to take a quarterback in the first round of next year. I don't know if we'll be picking at number one, and I don't know how good the quarterback class will be. But if anything's taught us anything about quarterback these past few years, is that no one really knows anything.
Yeah.
We see guys change teams all the time who have been drafted highly and then given up on, and they go to a good situation, and then they start balling out. So I think the best thing you can do is take as many bites at the apple with quarterback while prioritizing the situation over the
Yep.
quarterback. So I think that's what we should do. I don't think we should I know every Saints fan wants us to just tank and get number one and then get whoever quarterback gets at number one. But if you're not actively trying to improve the situation, then you're probably going to be picking number one, and that's not what you should be doing. We see
Yep.
number one quarterbacks disappoint over and over and over again, and even the ones that aren't disappointments currently, they've since moved on from other teams. So
Mhm.
I think there's like a big misconception with quarterback and tanking, just because there are so many elite teams now that don't have what we would go into the season as thinking as elite quarterbacks.
Yep.
So many teams have been questionable with elite quarterbacks, or not elite quarterbacks, but like top 10 ish quarterbacks, I would say, this year and in previous years. And the one consistent thing is situation. And if you can drop a quarterback into a situation and they play well, then who cares if they're truly good or not?
Yeah.
Do the Colts truly care whether Daniel Jones is in top 10 discussions? No, they don't care at all,
Yeah.
because they developed their situation, and now you drop in whatever ranked quarterback. Who cares? and they're immediately good. So I think, again, you have to take shots at quarterback, but getting a shot at quarterback, or missing a shot at quarterback really shouldn't be like a fireable offense. So I think you just have to keep doing it and then have to keep developing the situation to make it better.
Yeah, yeah. To me, I think if they end up with the first pick, right, you could either draft a quarterback or like there's a viable excuse to say, hey, we're gonna go with Tyler Shough because he only got half a season. No matter really how this goes, if Kellen Moore in the front office believes in him, you trade back from the number one spot and you go get a receiver,
Yep.
you go get an edge, you go get a interior O lineman, you build up the team around him. Maybe Shuck's able to improve this season. And if he doesn't, you have all this talent that you hope is good. You hope you hit on those picks. They're good,
Yeah.
and then the next year you have another early pick and then you go quarterback. Like there is two ways to go. And I let me ask you
Mhm.
this as
I
well.
agree.
For the team to not go quarterback in this draft, what kind of do you think it's wins or do you think it's production that you have to see out of Tyler Shough more than one another?
I don't really care about like production or uh any of that, like yards, touchdowns, any of that. It's can he operate the offense, and is it clearly his situation propping him up or the other way around? If he's propping up the situation, which is more likely than not in this case, if it's going to be translating to wins,
Mhm.
then obviously you stick with them, and then you take an edge high or you trade back like you mentioned, and you just acquire young talent, which this team is in desperate need of right now. So um, yeah, that's kind of what I think there.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I don't really. And I know, like, we talked about this with Rattler, right? Like, he wasn't having the biggest number of like, he wasn't having the most productive season this year, but he was looking like he could manage the offense, and it looked like he was managing an offense that was poor, right? Like, you knew around him, it didn't look great, but he was still making the ends meet. Whereas if Tyler Shough comes in
Exactly.
and the
Yeah.
offense looks like all right, but he's struggling, like that's when you know, hey, we need to go draft a quarterback here. So I completely agree there that the production and the wins don't necessarily have to be there. He has to be, bumping up the offense. You have to be able to see that there. So I completely agree, and I am excited for the Saints' future. I think the optimum timeline is another 2 seasons away from, kind of like that the Detroit Lions timeline there where, they sucked the first year. The second year, they kind of had a revival in the second half of the season,
That is the
and then that
template.
3rd
Yeah.
season. Yeah, that's the template. You wanna see that, and I think it's possible. I think it's possible for this team, but you need to hit again on that quarterback. But if they hit on the draft picks like they did this past draft, it becomes a lot quicker for this team. It just sucks that that 2023 draft really did set him back because it was just such a terrible draft. You have Brian Rasee, who's playing average right now. He's playing solid, but you don't have a single player from that draft that's just wow. Like he's helping out this team right now. So I want to go see them bounce back and this upcoming season. We'll be doing more episodes breaking down the Saints as well throughout the season and then the off season and training camp and everything like that. So we'll keep you guys informed about the Saints. Let me ask you one more question, Sturb. This isn't Saints related. It's very, very relevant though to the NFL. Should the NFL ban the tush push after what occurred this past Sunday? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think they absolutely should. This was kind of the last straw. It's unable to be officiated.
Yeah.
Like the forward progress being stopped was kind of BS, as everyone knows. It was clearly the wrong call to make.
Yeah.
And we saw even earlier this year, like it was becoming just a guess of whether they got it or not. And since they're the Eagles, the refs are going to lean on, like, oh, they're the Eagles. Of course they got it. But then when another
Yeah.
team runs it, it's 50-50 of whether they get it or not.
Yeah.
So I was pro tush push or anti banning the tush push this past summer. But I mean, that was the last straw. Like there's no way this doesn't get banned now.
Yeah, you just see it time and time again. The refs have no clue how to officiate it, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna call false starts. We're gonna call elite offsides, things like that." They haven't really called it on the Eagles, but they've called it on every other team that has tried to run the tush push. They've called it on the Saints. They called it on the Bills. They've called it on multiple other teams. It's like, why haven't you called it on the Eagles? Because there's clear false starts. There's clear moments where, like you just said, in this past game, Jalen Hurts is reaching the ball forward while actively being pushed forward. The whistle isn't blown. They steal the ball away. Then after the whistle is blown 2 seconds later, oh, we called forward progress. So these refs, they just have no clue what they're doing to officiate this play. And for that reason, you really gotta remove it from the sport. That's just kind of how it is. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode, the Whodat Breakdown episode of the Jenks Island Podcast. And in next episode, we're breaking down Week 9 and upcoming topics for things like that. So make sure to hit subscribe. Stay tuned to the podcast down below. You guys know where to check us out at Jenks Island on social media and wherever you get your podcasts at Jenks Island as well. We'll see you guys on Thursday.